Welcome, another episode, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, here with Brad Askew. Brad's a serious Eddie Murray collector, and we're talking about baseball Eddie Murray, not Eddie Murray, kicker in the NFL a long time ago. So Eddie Murray, fabulous, powerful switch hitter, Hall of Famer. Before we get to Brad, before we get to Eddie Murray, thanks to our sponsors, Topps Panini and Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins and Scott Auctions. Huggins and Scott, Bill Huggins, you may get a shout out in this episode, so be ready. Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, GOMC.com, lots of Eddie Murray cards there, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, and Beckett Marketplace, tons of Eddie Murray cards there as well. So welcome, Brad. We had a visit before, but this is an episode dedicated just to Eddie Murray, and I know Eddie has a lot of fans. Would you say you are in his top 10, top 2, top 100? I mean, where is your adulation for Eddie Murray stop and start?
Oh, I think my wife would say, argue that I've got to be his number one fan because I'm pretty crazy from that standpoint. I don't know if I am. I know many other Murray collectors as well who are all great guys and good friends, but I'm definitely among the top 5. I got to say, I'm guessing. So I've thoroughly enjoyed collecting his cards now.
Okay, when you
40 years.
When you say you're in the top 5, I think some listeners that are not tuned into the hobby don't always realize that when you say you're in the top 5, you probably know who the other 4 are.
No, I know a lot of them. That's exactly right.
And because it's a big world, but it's a small world.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I think you mentioned before in your podcast that sometimes collecting can be a solitary thing. You know, it's just you focused on what you want and what you're looking for, but you know, over the years, I've definitely developed a friendship and a rapport with a lot of other Murray collectors. We competed and still do, I guess, in one degree or another, compete with each other on eBay for certain items. And as you know, back in the day on eBay, you could see the ID of the people you were competing against. And obviously, for privacy reasons, I know they stopped doing that many years ago now. But so I remember, you know, I'm looking at an item, a rare item, and I'm like, oh man, I'm competing against, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so, and, you know, the plastic man's bidding on this one, so I'm going to have trouble getting this. I mean, you knew who the serious collectors were, and I've gotten to know all of them by name, or many of them by name over the years. Gentlemen like, there's a gentleman named Dwayne Crater, another one named Mark Reed, and among others, a gentleman up in the Washington, D.C. area who sold his collection through Huggins and Scott named Nathan Beam, who's a friend of mine as well. So, I mean, just a lot of guys you get to know and compete against, but develop a rapport and a relationship with also.
What, tell me, you mentioned that you had won some lots or bid on some lots that were in the Huggins and Scott catalog a while back. I mean, I really enjoy, again, I've got 2 auction sponsors. They're both great, but Huggins and Scott has really had some interesting way of lotting things. They've had some pretty outstanding player collecting kinds of lots that have from basic stuff to really tough stuff. And I just want to let you know I don't usually bid on those because, again, my whole goal is to get cards into the hands of the people that will appreciate them more than I will. And I am not in the top 5 of Eddie Murray. So if I picked up Eddie Murray stuff, it would be in the context of some other conglomerate lot that I picked up at Huggins and Scott or perhaps even a Heritage or in a estate sale or something. So a lot of times I'll just pick up a group of cards. And Eddie Murray's a keeper. Or at least he's set him aside and has demand. So I wouldn't bid against you, but I would, again, when there's those lots like that, did you ever get kept up in the wee hours of the night like I have sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. But the gentleman I mentioned, his name was Nathan Beam. He's a friend of mine who I've gotten to know as a Murray collector through the years. He reached out to me and said, hey, by the way, I've decided to sell off my collection, lock, stock, and barrel. He had talked to me about buying, you know, some cards back in the day, but had said, hey, I'd like to sell them all off, I think is the way he put it. But, and I said, and I'm like, and I can't do all that at once, I don't think. But, you know, and long story short, he said, hey, I've decided to sell them at Huggins and Scott. And honestly, I wasn't familiar with them at the time, but became familiar, obviously. And so I said, okay, I'll check them out. And I think they had, over the course of 2 different auction cycles, I think they had maybe 7 different Murray lots that they did of his. And I ended up winning 5 out of the 7, I think. And yes, I did those late night, okay, I'm the high bidder. Oh, there's a 30-minute window. Am I going to stay the high bidder? Oh, somebody jumped ahead of me. Now I got to pick and go again. And, you know, I remember staying up way into the wee hours on at least one of those occasions, just making sure that I did win them. But I was pleased with what I got. I did very well, and they did a great job of displaying too.
I've talked to Bill Huggins about that, and his advice for both you and me is just to put in your max bid. I mean, I know you would love that, but the problem is on lots like that, if you have 2 people that are fanatical and they both put in these max bids, it just goes right up to it immediately because there's a cascade. And so I think, thanks, Bill, but no thanks. I might sleep worse. I might sleep worse going to sleep thinking I'd be hoping I didn't win.
Right, exactly.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
So, but he's had lots like that for Jared Cheater, for Michael Jordan. And I generally don't bid on those that are so focused because you're probably going to be bidding against a fanatic, which you don't sound like a fanatic, but if you're a passionate collector, then somebody.
That's right.
But again, now that there are, not just price guides, but lots of ways to determine value now, you can kind of know if you're. I mean, there are personal collector type people, super collectors that are willing to pay more than what it's worth. I don't want to be bid against them, but that's their prerogative. In fact, I actually want to sell to them.
Right.
That's who I'd like to sell to. But
agreed, and that's kind of what I did. I actually spent a lot of time looking at each of those lots before the auctions, going, okay, to the best of my knowledge, what am I getting? And if I bid up to this plus the buyer's premium, et cetera, what am I paying per card for these bunch of certified autos or whatever? And I was comfortable with the prices I paid, and I'm glad to have added them to my collection. So it worked out well. But
do you have a want list? Or do you just can look at it and see I don't have it?
Well, that's a good point. I've actually just recently, over the past few months, I subscribed to the Beckett Online Price Guide. I've done it before over the years, but finally decided to dig in and really catalog what I have. For the longest time, it was more of I think I have that. Let me go check and see if I have that or not, kind of thing. But I've really made it a point of getting in there, and I've done most of the Beckett cataloging now. I'm about 2,100. Well, when I finish, I'm probably going to be around 23 or 2,400 different cards that are on the price guide that I have. He has about 4,300, I believe, is the total number right now. And it's kind of crazy. And it's true this with a lot of modern players, period. I'm sure you know this too. He played from 1977 to 1997. And during those 21 years, on the price guide, he only has about 950 to 1,000 cards. Yeah. So since he's retired in the last 23 odd years, another 3,300 cards have been made, which is pretty staggering when you think about it.
Well, some people cut it off. I mean, I was talking to a guy that said, I just collect from here to here, and it's generally when the person played, because it's amazing. If somebody was a great player, they're going to still be in sets. So
that's right. Yeah, and that's what has changed. And I still collect the 2020s that come out, but I see where people are feeling that way. And my greatest passion would be for ones during his playing career, 77 to 97. And honestly, I really think the highlight of production value and the best looking cards of his, and when all of the whole, autos and game use stuff started coming out, late 90s or whatever. His first certified auto was in 97, his last year in the majors. And then, of course, there was a flood of that. And I really think that late 90s, early 2000s range are some of his best looking cards from a variety of different people. So I really like, my ideal would probably be up to about 05 or so. And then 06 on, I'll collect them, but it's not as, not as robust, I guess. He went into the Hall of Fame in 2003, and that was his first ballot Hall of Famer. And I still think he's kind of an underrated Hall of Famer, even though he was a first ballot or underrated player. But he's, my player collection definitely runs the gamut his whole career beyond.
Yeah, he has I think he does not have a fair reputation, because by all accounts he's a really nice guy, but I don't think the sports writers liked him as much as they liked some other guys.
True.
But I've talked to some people that say he's a real stand-up guy.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I know, he could often be, indifferent with the media, or I've heard even rude with the media, and didn't give a lot of interviews, and I know all of that's true. But you're right in that, I've heard enough over the years of people, first of all, people like Jim Palmer and others saying he was a great teammate. He's the best teammate I ever had. He also, along those lines, it's something that I tell people a lot when it comes to Murray. The night Ripken broke the Gehrig record, for consecutive games, when he went to 21-31, Ripken in his post-game speech thanked four people specifically, that night. And those four people were his mom, his dad, his wife, and Eddie Murray. So I feel pretty good about, what his thoughts about what Murray meant for his career. And he made a comment that Eddie, when I came to the majors, Eddie was there to show me the way, show me how important it was to be in the lineup every day. And, Murray didn't play in 2,000 straight games, but he played in, 1,980 out of those 2,000 games or whatever. So that's, that leads me to believe that, he's very well respected within the game by his teammates. He's also done a ton of charitable work over the years, and I know that he was always pretty private with that, but I've read enough over the years. actually, when he signed his big contract in 1985, he became the highest paid player in the game at that point. I think he was making like $2.5 million or something per year, which now is peanuts compared to other players. But I remember when he signed his contract, he gave $500,000 to create a foundation in the name of his mother, and that helped develop a big parks and recreation development there in the Baltimore area that still, is a park and does summer programs for underprivileged kids and all kinds of things like that. He was also nominated for your favorite, the Roberto Clemente Award, I believe.
Right.
He never won it, but he was nominated for it many a time.
Honored to be nominated, for sure.
Absolutely, in that regard, no doubt about it. And I remember specifically as well when he went to the Hall of Fame in 2003. My wife, I went up there for the ceremony. I'd always told her, even when we were dating, when he goes in the Hall of Fame, I'm going to go for that. So we were there along with one of my fellow collectors, a gentleman named Dwayne Crater, another Murray collector. He and the four of us had a wonderful weekend up there together that time and saw the induction. But that weekend, Murray brought, I forget how many, but it was several dozen underprivileged kids from the Baltimore area. He brought them to the Hall of Fame to be a part of. I assume they're probably tied to the camp like his mom was a part of. But so all of that, just makes me realize that he's not a media darling. He's not, hasn't been always portrayed in that way, and maybe rightly so. But I know that there's been enough good things said about him over the years that all in all, he's been a pretty good guy, as well as a great player.
One two-part question for you, because we're almost out of time. Number one, you mentioned 77. His Topps rookie card 78. What do you have from 77? That's one part. The other part is, do you get into memorabilia very much? Because I'm mainly a card guy. I've got some memorabilia, but to what extent does your Eddie Murray collection include not swatches and relics, but actual other three-dimensional memorabilia stuff?
Absolutely. I do have some of that. I do not have any game used of him. I haven't gone to that extent as far as buying something, but I do have, I've got an autographed Cleveland Indians batting helmet of his. I've got an autographed ball. I've got an autographed Orioles cap. I've got, some of the figurines, like the Salvino autograph figurine. I've got, stuff like that. So I do have a lot of memorabilia that's signed by him, framed portraits and stuff like that, or framed pieces I have of him autographed as well. So I do have a good bit of memorabilia of him. And, one day probably, may look to get more or do something with game use. That is something I would look to do. And as far as your first part of the question, 77. I got a little bit of stuff. I know I've got, I think the first album, I do have a team issue from 77, which is the photo album. And I believe that's the number one item on the Beckett OPG. Right. I have that. I've got all of those. I've got all of his, team postcards as well, which they're oversized. And like you said in many podcasts, are not as collectible for the general public, but I like those as well. So I do have a lot of his team postcards. I've got his 77 photo album. Let's see. It seems like I've got at least something else from 77. I'm trying to recall. I do have, of course, his other rookies, the Hostess and the Kellogg, which are from 78 that are, I think, are pretty cool as well. Right. The one thing that amazes me about the rookie is, as you know, the grading in the hobby has just gotten so amazing. But that's even before there was grading. It was a condition sensitive card with the centering. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And I recently saw on eBay, and no, I did not buy it, Jim, nor did I bid on it. But my wife would be relieved to know that I did not bid on it. I recently saw a 1978 PSA 10 of the Murray rookie sell for $16,100. And I was like, are you kidding me? I mean, I would love to own it, but I just can't justify spending that much money on a 1978 Topps. I hear you. Yeah. I've got 8s and an off-center 9, but I don't have a very respectable. Yeah. But I'm not sure I'd want it that badly either. But last party shot, just so I can get something in that maybe you don't have. But at one point, and I don't have many more because I traded them, but I had, I think Eddie won some gold gloves. Mm-hmm. Yes, he won 3 actually. And so I'm sure he was the best hitter on his high school team, but he was not the best fielder on his high school team. And I had shoes, the rookie shoes of his high school teammate who happened to be pretty good. That's exactly right. Yeah, do you think Locke High School was pretty good back then? They had Murray and Ozzie in the lineup. That's pretty good. Well, they was, I think that would be pretty amazing. That'd be worth going back in time and watching that. So, anyway, thank you so much for your time, Jim. Really enjoyed it. Thanks and thanks listeners. Thanks, Brad. We'll be back again tomorrow with another episode. Hope you enjoyed Eddie Murray. I certainly did, and I'll know not to bid on Eddie Murray in the future. So, thanks, Brad. Thanks, listeners. Be back tomorrow.
The man in the